and we're talking to Sukhpaul Bal. Hey, Sukhpaul, how's it going?
Hey, good, Sean. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Okay, so I wanted to find out what is going on right now with the cherry industry in the Okanagan Valley. I haven't been hearing good things. I would like some details from you. What's happening?
Sure. Yeah, we've been in this stretch of about five consecutive seasons where an extreme event, be it polar vortex or heat dome, has really done some damage to our crop, and to the right, from the get-go of very short crops. We're talking in the range of less than 20% crops in some seasons for growers. Um, and the heat dome year, beautiful crop on the trees, and then extreme heat came in the end of June and really did a lot of damage. Didn't let the fruit size. So there's been a lot of issues, and we've never seen anything like this where it's year after year, and there's not even a season where you catch a break and have a average year.
Yeah, man. Okay, and is there business risk management programs to backstop that those kinds of severe losses?
Well, as you know, we do have the business risk programs, the production insurance and agri stability. But in my discussions with government, what I've been telling them is these programs weren't designed with this extreme climate in mind. They were designed as, okay, you had a bad season, maybe it was spring frost or a hail event or something happened. Yeah, if you trigger a claim, uh, there's a 20% deductible when you buy to the highest in production insurance. You can only cover 80%. So a grower has to kind of eat that 20%. And then you hope the next year your crop is better, you have an average year or maybe a record year, right? So that's how those programs are designed. And what we're highlighting is, look, the that 20% deductible, now people are having that applied 5 consecutive years. That's a huge portion of a crop that is not being covered. And it's showing that the weaknesses, call it, are that we haven't really adapted and changed our programs to acknowledge the extreme events we've been seeing for the last 5 seasons.
Are we seeing people transition out of cherries into other crops at this time, or what's happening there?
Yeah, not exactly, because with tree fruits, it is such a big investment to with the planting, and 4 or 5 years out, then you start getting some viable crops. Production is supposed to occur, so it's not like a ground crop, doing tomatoes one year and then next year let's switch to peppers, or we can't transition. It's kind of this slow aircraft carrier if you want to turn and and
Yeah.
and go on a different route. So that's kind of the challenge where growers have invested so much in plantings. We have some of the most expensive land in Canada here. The optical machines for packing houses is a huge investment. So our industry has been one of the top industries in exports. As we may have discussed, the South Korea market, where the first cherry market with a systems approach to get cherries there. All other markets have to fumigate.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, maybe worse than I've heard as you break this down. So, for 24 here, how are things looking? Like, give us a bit of an outlook here as you look at your own operation.
Yeah, it's yeah. What you've heard is really bad, and the news is it's even worse for this year. So this is the worst part of this stretch, where I'm anticipating that on our own farm we have over 90% of our crop has been wiped out by that cold event in mid January, and many other growers are in that same boat, so to speak. And just maybe some of the farms near water, near Okanagan Lake and such other lakes around, they may have a bit of a crop. But with this recent January event, it was tracking to be such a mild winter, and just within a few days, we went from plus 5, 6 degrees to minus 30. So it was kind of the worst situation, where the trees were getting signals, hey, it might be time to wake up soon. And then quickly this polar vortex came down and dropped temperatures to levels that we've seen that cold before here, but what usually happens is the trees see, -5, -10, -15, -20, kind of a gradual cooling, and the trees get hardier as things get cooler. But a drastic shift in temperatures is not something that the trees can sustain, and you get all the flowers within the buds freeze.
Yeah, it's no different than a human is in a warm climate. They get on an airplane, like say they're going from Hawaii and they're dropped into the middle of Manitoba in the middle of winter. It's a shock, right? You're not acclimatized, and trees are really no different. Okay, so that's gonna. This is because I've heard the same thing. Is the same sort of that cold snap has really negatively impacted the wineries as well in the region. Is that what you've been hearing?
Yeah, for them as well. More just the last couple of years with cold events has really done a number as well on the plants, and those the grapevines. They're even less hardy and then cherry trees. Well, so our trees, we're hoping the trees are fine. We're going to be losing this year's crop, but we won't be in a situation where we're doing a mass replanting because trees have died. We may have some branch mortality here or there within the canopy, but the grapes, yeah, they're in a really rough situation, and they're the varieties that they've kind of gone to over the years are not very hardy for our region. They do make the better wine, from what I understand, but so they face that challenge where it is, yeah, gets to be risky when you're planting material that's not suited for this area. Whereas our cherry varieties, we have the Federal Summerland Research Center right here in our valley, breeding program that's produced 80% of the commercial cherries worldwide have come from this area. So we've been planting material that's from here. So we even us we're facing the challenges with how the plants are having trouble coping.
Yeah, from your own operation standpoint, Sukhpaul, like we've been talking a lot about the drought and some of the impacts on the prairies, and in agriculture we know that Mother Nature's the big variable, of course, and we need her to cooperate, and but it's over a sustained amount of years that's got to be having a lot of impact on your own operation and forcing you to make some pretty tough decisions, I'm sure, to kind of steer through this.
Yeah, it's really tough times, and I have been spending a lot since that January freeze. Most of my time has been trying to discuss with government on this, immediate support that's needed. I've been explaining that the cherry industry, even after the heat dome, we weren't knocking on government's door saying, "Hey, we need some extra compensation." We were trying to let the programs do what they do, and we're desperately looking to get out of it ourselves with a season that we can sell our cherries. But it's come to this point where, yeah, it's that breaking point where how long can you go
Yeah.
without having a season where you're actually farming your crop. So that's what we're kind of say the canary in the coal mine type of thing with how these programs are designed, and we're trying to really push. Hey, we have not acknowledged these extreme events consecutive year after year. It's not in our programs. There is agri recovery, as you're probably aware of, but agri recovery has this condition where you have to have incurred extra costs due to the disaster.
Yeah.
So we don't have barns and that are flooded, or animals that are flowing down with the flood, etc. That we've seen on the news in the past. I'm saying this is I would have called a silent disaster. Right, our trees are still there. They still look the same. It's just that polar air came down very
Yeah.
rapidly, did its damage, and the production programs that are supposed to deal with that aren't up to the standard that we need with these extreme events. So that's where I'm pushing government to try to make some changes. But and my worry is that the changes won't come fast enough.
Yeah, speed's important in these kind of situations. Now, as a cherry grower, give us some insight? Do you have other crops? Or are you like a cherry grower's a cherry grower, and that's the only crop that you're farming? Talk like, is there diversification here to help you out, or is you're all in on cherries?
Yeah, with our operation, we went into agritourism because of our location. So we've got a farm market, a little coffee shop restaurant, a small bed and breakfast, and then we also host some special events because our farm is got a beautiful view of all of Kelowna. And so we leveraged that. So we started doing that back in about 2010. But it's the agritourism. It is growing, but it's had this negative sentiment towards it. The public or policies are kind of just farm, don't get into that stuff. Leave that to the hotels and people that are in different zoning. You just worry about farming, right? So
Yeah.
so there's a whole big discussion on that and how that should happen. But personally, that's what our farm we've gone into a little bit of that. But there are a lot of our growers do have apples, but the apple situation has been very down. The pricing, we're right up against Washington State, one of the largest producers in the world. So yeah, there's challenges on many fronts, but with all the investments with packing houses and what you need to do to grow cherries, we've seen many people actually very specialize into that because they've got all these investments made. And what we've proposing is that not just hey, we need instant cash and that's all. No, we want a game plan to get out of this.
Yeah.
So we're actually our research committee at the Cherry Association, we're looking at, how do we grow cherries with climate change in mind? What other things need to be done? So we're looking to adapt to this, but as you know, that's just not okay, next season we've got everything in. That's a long-term thing, right up to even breeding hardier varieties that can withstand cold. That's a 25 to 30 year, outlook on cross pollinating and trying to get a variety that comes out of the thousands of test cherries to see which one can withstand those cold temperatures.
Sukhpaul, I wish it was under different circumstances, but I do appreciate you filling us in on what's going on in the dire situation there in the Okanagan Valley. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again soon, okay?
All right, thanks, Sean.